Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'd like to show you how to make this cute pumpkin and cat cake topper for Halloween. Okay, so to begin with I'm just going to show you that I coloured my modelling paste with orange Sugarflair food colouring paste, and I'll put a link to everything that I use in the description so you can have a closer look later. Okay, so we're making the pumpkin first, and we've got about 50 grams of orange modelling paste, which I knead till pliable, and then I'm just going to roll into a ball shape. So I'm just going to flatten that slightly and then just narrow the bottom a little bit before I get my large ball tool, and I'm just going to push a hole in the middle there. Not all the way down, but this is so the cat can go inside the pumpkin. I'm just going to neaten that off a little bit with my fingers. Okay, so now I've just got my blade tool and I'm just going to score around the little sections that you get in a pumpkin. Just going to do it gently first. I'm not really measuring it because all pumpkins are different. We just want to make sure that you get a nice section at the end there and that you haven't got too close together. So now I'm just going to go around the top there, just fill in the gaps that I've missed. You'll notice that I've got quite a pale orange, and I've done this on purpose so I can add some shading later. You of course could make it a nice darker orange if you wanted to and miss the shading out. Okay, and if it misshapes you can just pop your ball tool back in just to make that hole a bit bigger. And now I'm going to go around and I'm just going to make those grooves a little bit deeper just to add the texture of the pumpkin. Don't forget to do the bottom too. And there we go. Okay, so now I've got my knife tool, and what I'm going to do is just going to add a little bit of texture to each section of the pumpkin. I really hope you can see it in the video. It is very, very delicate. But so I'm just doing these little tiny lines just all the way around the pumpkin just to give it a little bit of texture. Again, if you find that you're squishing the hole, you can just use your ball tool just to gently go in that hole and just make it wider and back to how it was. So once I've done this, I let the pumpkin set for about 30 minutes before adding some orange food colouring dust just to shade around the outside. And this is called Sunset Orange by Sugarflair. So I'm just going to pop some of that onto a kitchen towel. You don't need much. And then what I'm going to do, I put it on my dusting brush and then I get the excess off on the kitchen towel because you don't want to put too much onto your model. And I just gently brush it on to the model. We don't put too much on to begin with because it's hard to take it off, but you can always add. So I'm just going to go around each section and I'm just going to add some nice shading to the pumpkin. And if you find that you're squishing it, again, you can just hold it with your ball tool and that will keep it in one position. So once I've done that, I am going to add a little bit of glaze spray. Now this will set the dust, it won't keep coming off, but also give that nice little shine which pumpkins have. Again, you don't need to do this, but I just like to do it because it just makes it look more like a real pumpkin really. I hope you can see that shine there. So I'm just going to put that aside to dry while I make the cat. So I've got a small piece of black modelling paste. The size of this will depend on how big and deep your hole is. So this is for like the body which will go into the pumpkin. So I'm just forming it into a little cone shape like you can see there. And then you just want to check it inside the hole to make sure it fits. You want it to protrude out a little bit above the top of the pumpkin. So I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to use a little bit of clear alcohol just to stick that into position. Or you could use an edible glue if you prefer. And there we go. Okay, so now we're going to make the head, and I've got about 10 grams of black modelling paste which I've kneaded till pliable, and I'm just going to form into a ball shape. So now I'm just going to use my finger just to flatten the top part there where the eyes will go. Hope you can see that there. There we go. Just going to check for size, always check for size. And now I'm just going to pinch out from the top there to make an ear. So on a kind of a triangle section just being pinched out from the top right. Okay, and now I'm just going to use the small end of my bone tool just to create a little indent inside the ear there. Just to shape in that further. And there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to pop it into a flower former just so you can see what I'm doing. So again, I've got the small end of my bone tool and I'm going to start making some eye sockets. I always do this slowly so I make sure I've got them like next to each other in line with each other. And then I also get the size that I want. So I always do this very slowly. Okay, so now I'm going to pop into those eye sockets 2 balls of white modelling paste. And I'm just going to secure them with the larger end of the bone tool. And there we go. Okay, so I'm now using the small end of my ball tool just to create 2 holes into the white modelling paste for the irises, which I'm now going to fill with 2 small balls of blue modelling paste. Again, all these colours I will share in the links in the description so you know how I've made them. Okay, just going to secure that with the larger end of my ball tool. And then again, make another hole for the pupils. Now for the pupils, I just used 2 small black sugar pearls, but you could also use 2 small balls of black modelling paste. I just find these easier. So I'm just going to stick those into position and secure with the ball tool, and there you can see the eyes forming. So now we're going to do where the whiskers go. I've got 2 small pea-size balls of black modelling paste which I've flattened with my fingers, and then I'm just going to stick them into position. And you want these to touch in the middle. So they'll form like a little flat line down the middle there, which you can see. Okay. And then I'm just going to pop in some holes with my needle tool. I always do 5 holes, 1 in the middle and 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. And there we go. And now we're going to make a chin. I've just got a really teeny tiny bit of black modelling paste, form it into a sausage shape, then tape it around into like a moon shape. Then I'm just going to add some clear alcohol to the back of that, so then I can stick it into position. So it will go underneath the part we've just stuck on, making sure you've got a little bit of a gap there. So just shape it with your fingers, and you want that gap so we can pop a little tongue in there. To make the tongue, I've got a teeny tiny piece of pink modelling paste, form it into a tear shape, then flatten it slightly, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of the glue and then pop that into position. And then I'm just going to use my Dresden tool just to help stick that into position and to make a little line down the tongue there. There we go. Okay. So now I've also got a small piece of lighter pink modelling paste, which I'm forming into a little triangle shape for the nose. Again, you can have any size nose that you want. It will go in between the 2 little circles that we've put in there. And there we go, just going to stick that into position. And there we go. Okay, so lastly I've got an even smaller piece of pink modelling paste which I'm going to stick into the little indent that we made earlier. Just form it into a ball and then secure with the ball tool. And there we go, inside the ear. Lovely. Right, lastly, I'm just going to add 2 tiny balls of white modelling paste for highlights in the eyes. Just pick them up with your brush, a damp brush, and then secure with the ball tool. I put them about 1 o'clock. Okay, so now we're going to add little paws. So we have 2 tiny balls of black modelling paste, and then we flatten them, and then I make one edge even smaller. Hope you can see that there. And then I'm just going to add some, like where the claws would be, with my knife tool, just some little indents there. Just push it in, and then you can pick them up and just make some indents underneath if it's missed it out. There we go, there are the paws. It's hard to see in this video because they're so tiny. And then we're just going to stick them into position on the pumpkin, as if his little paws are coming out and they're just over the edge there. So now I'm going to use a toothpick, and what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm just going to push down kind of halfway in the body where the toothpick will go, and then I'm going to add a little bit of glue again, pull it out, and then I'm going to put the toothpick all the way through the head and then I want it to come out to the top because it will hold the hat on as well. I don't like to use toothpicks that often, but with this model it kind of needed it. But obviously if you do make it for someone, make sure they know the toothpick is in there. And now you can just add that on there. We do it this way rather than put the cat's head on top of the toothpick already in the body, because all it will do is just push the toothpick to the bottom of your pumpkin, and you don't want that. Okay, so now we're going to make the hat, and I've got about 6 grams of purple modelling paste. Knead it till pliable, form it into a ball, and then into a cone shape. Flatten the bottom by turning it on the board, and then use your finger and thumb just to go around the edge and pull out to make a peak. Just keep going round. If you need to flatten it some more, you can, but just keep going until you've got the size peak that you want. Just check for size. And guys, if you do like this tutorial, please do give it a thumbs up to support my channel, as it really helps it along. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm just going to use my ball tool just to make a little indent in the middle there, so it'll help fit nicely on the cat's head. I'm just going to thin off that peak with my fingers, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the top of the hat just so it just kind of falls to one side. And then just make a little pinch at the top there for a nice point. And before I put it onto the cat's head, again I'm just going to use a toothpick just to mark a hole where I want it to go. Again, this will stop the toothpick being pushed down when you add the hat on. Add a little bit of clear alcohol for glue, and then we're just going to stick that into position kind of at an angle. I mean, you can have it however angle you like. But this is why we needed the toothpick, because being at an angle, it can easily slip off, and this just holds it all into position nicely. And once you've got it in there, you can tweak it as much as you like, make it more bent over, pointed, and play with the peak. You can have a floppy peak. You can do all sorts of things that you like. So just tweak it until you're happy. So lastly, I'm just making a ribbon to go around the hat, and I'm just forming some orange modelling paste into a tube, and then I'm just using my cake smoother just to roll it out to make it as nice and thin and even. Check for length, and then once I'm happy, I'm just going to use my cake smoother just to press down and flatten out that tube. I'm just going to trim one end with my scissors. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of glue along the strip, not at the very end because I want that to kind of stick out a little bit. Turn my model around, and you can see that ribbon bit that doesn't have the glue is hanging off the end. Go all the way around, cross over, and then just use my scissors to trim. And there we go. And that is your Halloween cupcake topper made. I really hope that you found this tutorial useful. Please do check out my other ones. Please comment, like and subscribe for more, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.